the other night, y'all, my husband was watching the show. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the lines that the girl said in the show was, the prodigal son returned. So of course my antennas went off when I heard that, right? It's something I wanted to highlight to y'all. I know, like I tell you guys all the time, God can speak through anything, right? And he does. When your heart is open to receive him, right, you're able to receive how he speaks to you, which can be endless ways, right? Limitless ways. But don't receive everything that you hear or see as a sign from God, okay? Because you have to use your discernment, y'all. You have to get confirmation on it. You have to go to God about it. Because if you receive every single thing that you see or hear or whatever as you're thinking that it's God giving you a word, giving you a message, giving you a confirmation about something, you're going to lead to hope deferred, okay? And on this journey, right, marriage journey aside, just like my faith journey in general, I have fell into that trap a lot of times, y'all. I have received things that I believed were things from God or what have you, and it wasn't, okay? It just wasn't, and it led to hope deferred. And that's not God's fault. That's mine, right? We have to discern what's from God. We have to take everything back to God and say, Lord, was this you giving me a message, giving me a word? Is this you speaking to me, right? Confirm it in another way, like show it to me, because hope deferred, y'all, hope deferred is it's not fun. So I took it back to God, and he led me to Proverbs 18, okay? So I'm going to go over a couple of scripture from Proverbs 18 and how it aligns, all right? So Proverbs 18:1, one who isolates himself pursues selfish desires. He rebels against all sound wisdom, okay? That's the prodigal spirit, right? Pulling away to chase their own path. Maybe that's what, like, you know, your spouses have done, right? And what we've done at times too, y'all, especially emotionally and spiritually, sometimes we tend to lean on our own understanding, right? We tend to, I told you guys a plethora of times, Satan wants you to be separated from God. Like, he wants you to be dependent or independent, okay? He doesn't want you to be dependent on God. So he's definitely going to want to lead you down your own path, right? Instead of going down the path that God has for you. Proverbs 18:2, a fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions, right? There's a point in rebellion, okay, where pride blocks clarity. But when God is softening that heart, whether it's ours, theirs, anybody's, right, he brings it back to humility. Proverbs 18:13, he who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. And Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit, okay? Not to assume what God is or isn't doing in our spouses just yet, right? The return may not look like what you expected. These are checkpoints that we have to think about. Y'all, I've told you time and time again, you have to take your expectations off of how, when, what it's going to look like, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. You know, you just have to take your expectations off of it, okay? Because God is in control. Because sometimes you can speak death over a promise that God hasn't finished yet, right? And you assume silence means absence when really God is just working in secret. I can't tell you how many times, even myself, y'all, have spoken death over, you know, unintentionally, obviously, but just being filled with emotions, right? This is why we have to be spirit-led, not emotion-led, because you can speak like death over something that God is trying to resurrect. You can speak death over something that God is not done, finished yet, right? Just because you're going off of what it looks like, because you're going off of how long the wait is, and so on and so forth. And of course, Proverbs 18:22, right? He who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord, right? It reminded me that I'm not just praying for the return. You're not just praying for the return, right? You're part of God's plan for the restoration. You're the favor, not the fixer, not the forcer, but the favor. And then what was crazy about this, because I've talked about this before too, y'all, you have to have like childlike faith, right? You have to have a childlike dependence on God on this journey, just in your walk with God anyway. But you have to have a childlike faith when it comes to anything that God has promised you. And what's so crazy is I have two different devotionals that I read like from a book every morning, right? And both of them were talking about, one was talking about childlike dependence, and the other one was basically talking about like childlike faith. You cannot walk out a promise with adult logic, right? You need childlike faith. You need childlike trust in God. If God said he was going to do it, he's going to freaking do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? A child does not analyze. They receive. A child does not predict outcomes. They trust the voice of the one leading them, okay? A child doesn't earn love. They rest in it. This kind of faith breaks striving. I talked about this before. Fear and self-reliance, right? On the marriage journey or any journey, right? Childlike faith, it keeps you soft when waiting hardens most people, okay? It keeps you hopeful when others would have given up. It keeps you in position even when you don't see the fruit, right? It teaches you to trust God with how and when, and not just. So when God says the prodigal son returns, right, it's to him. They go to God first, they return to God first, and then everything else falls into play, right? The marriage promise, so on and so forth. But he's also inviting you back to him, back to faith, back to rest, back to trust, okay? In the arms of God, we are not only welcomed, we are healed, held, and restored. You do not need to understand everything, y'all. You don't need to force or figure it out. You just need to come like a child and let God carry you when you can't.